Egghead Island did something amazing with Rayleigh's character that didn't need to be touched, if I'm being honest, and that's give him purpose. And I'm talking about Vegapunk pressing the former Roger pirates for not acting and fading away, in which Haki noticed Rayleigh never gets this drunk, but because of Vegapunk's message, he was drinking like a sailor, and Rayleigh said, "I'm old and washed up just like you, Vegapunk, you should let the young guys take over." And pretty much said that Vegapunk was saying too much, which was crazy because it's exactly what I kind of said as well. And I'll touch upon that at the end of this video. Rayleigh then said the thrill is theirs to seek now, right, Roger. It's like Rayleigh is doing Roger's wish or Roger's will. Like he's trying to help Roger complete what Roger set out to do. It's like Rayleigh really wants to get the approval of his captain Roger, which makes sense. You are following your captain orders even if they pass away. And Rayleigh was telling Vegapunk, I'm betting on Roger's idea of planting the seeds and letting them grow than Vegapunk's idea of taking the whole tree down. Now, to give credit to Vegapunk, he does of course acknowledge Roger setting all this into motion in chapter 1121, as we see Rayleigh was knocked out. But I feel like Rayleigh is the Roger pirate alive who seen Laugh-Tale learn the voice entry, Will of D, and Joy Boy's treasure, the One Piece, as he laughed, and then came back to the real world and did the most by training Luffy, the man who will be the star of the final war, the same way Joy Boy was during the Void Century. But let's actually see what Rayleigh will do in the final war, as Egghead Island is foreshadowing something big again. Make sure you guys of course also like the video and subscribe before of course we do the deep dive on the Dark King, Silver's Rayleigh. Now, the debut of Silver's Rayleigh was during the East Blue Saga very early on, so we know Oda had big things planned from the start, as we see him telling Shanks and Buggy to pretty much shut the fuck up about which is colder, the North Pole or the South Pole, and even saying go find out for yourself if you care so much. Now here I noticed that Rayleigh was the vice captain that people are scared of more than of course the captain. It's like how your mom would scare you more than your dad, but technically she's the vice captain of the family. But that's beside the point. Rayleigh's design here was a little different, which is not that surprising if you look at how much Marco early on or the Yonko silhouettes early on changed. Oda loves to update designs of characters. He hasn't shown much, for goodness sake. Look at Gaban in that very same flashback. Yes, Scopper Gaban was all goofy like, and now he looks badass with his battle axe. When Luffy was worried about Silver's Rayleigh with all those super rookies being around, Haki told him to relax. Rayleigh's 100 times stronger than you guys. Now at the time it could have been her hyping up her man, but now knowing what we know now, she was not joking, as Rayleigh is a monster. Even in the current story, Oda has a trend of letting his old generation go out like monsters. We had an epic Whitebeard Marineford War performance, and of course we had Garp recently going to Blackbeard's territory and laying down the fist and fighting most of his top commanders, and a former Admiral Naokiji, his former pupil. So expect Rayleigh to have a similar moment like this in the final war. And the reason why Rayleigh gets in the final war and Garp and Whitebeard didn't is because Rayleigh has a strong connection to Luffy because he's Luffy's trainer. It's the same way Shanks is going to have his big moment in the final war as well, because he's Luffy's role model. Garp is Luffy's grandfather, but at the end of the day, Garp is an enigma because Garp may still have a moment because Luffy facing Blackbeard, Garp might be locked up on Pirate Island or wherever they are, and we might see Blackbeard kill Garp or take him out in front of Luffy. So there's still moments for Garp. Now of course Oda officially debuted Silver's Rayleigh with him showing off his Conqueror's Haki to the shock of the giant that sat in the prison next to him, and also highlighted how he likes young girls. Now I don't know, maybe Oda's hinting at Rayleigh going out saving a girl. My top candidate I can think of in the final war is maybe Haki, his wife. And remember, we just seen him recently save Boa Hancock from the Yonko Blackbeard on Amazon Lily. And another thing I want to add is having him start off with Haki, and Oda recently showing how advanced Haki can get, like Luffy's Red Rock advancement of Armored Haki, or Shanks' Future Sight before attacking Eustace Kid, and most recently Joy Boy's stored up Haki, Conqueror's Haki Blast, let alone Conqueror's Haki Coding we have seen from Luffy, Kaido, Shanks, Garp, and the Gorosei. I feel that like the Dark King is going to have to pop out and show these dudes a new type of Haki he hasn't used since his prime days, which pretty much is going to be doing during the final war, and that's why he was known as the Lord of the Underworld. He has a dark, sinister Haki. Now, of course, Garp brings up the Dark King Silver's Rayleigh moniker that some think is actually known as the God of the Underworld or Lord of the Underworld, a Pluto reference, or the God of Death. So I expect some of the most sinister level Haki, like I said, especially with Mr. Darkness himself, Blackbeard, that didn't want no smoke when he saw Rayleigh approaching with Conqueror's Haki coating leaking off his blade. But I'll dive into that a little bit later. In all seriousness though, all in all, Garp laughs at the fact that they are selling the Lord of the Underworld at an auction. And again, it made me think of the future Pirate King's Vice Captain Zoro, whose moniker is the King of Hell. Coincidence? I don't think so. But back to Garp speaking on Rayleigh. He says he has heard reports of people seeing Rayleigh, and he most likely bet his body after losing his money during gambling. And that makes me think Rayleigh is going to lose his life gambling on Luffy during the final war. But I'll explain that a little at the end of this video, so hang on a little bit. I also want to say this. I was quite interested in how Garp said that the Navy can't go at two legends at the same time, referencing the war against Whitebeard. So the fact that Garp is seeing Rayleigh in the same light as the world's strongest man definitely means a lot when looking at how strong Rayleigh was in his prime. Now, Rayleigh uses a blast of Haki and tells Luffy he's been waiting to meet him, and how the Straw Hat suits a fearless man. Now, of course, he is talking about Roger, his captain, who gave the Straw Hat to Shanks, and we saw Roger have it when he first met Rayleigh, so this makes a lot of sense. Even when they fought the Rocks pirates on God Valley, we see that Rayleigh was standing next to Roger with, of course, the Straw Hat. Now, I do want to say this. Rayleigh's the man who knows the truth of the Will of D, the Void Sentry, and Joy Boy's laugh. And I actually think he meant Joy Boy, the original Straw Hat user, as well as Roger. And people always forget that Rayleigh isn't your typical regular man. Unlike Roger and Odin, who passed away after learning the truth, he is still alive, and that's what makes him so dangerous to Emu and the world government if he makes a move in the final war. That's why his bounty, when it gets revealed, I can't wait to see the number on that. We later see Rayleigh take off the cuffs that Kami was wearing during, of course, the auction with the most advanced type of armament Haki. Like let's be honest here, Oda wanted Rayleigh to be the spokesperson of Haki after Roger died, and with Kaido saying Haki is what truly makes you strong, this is a direct message from Oda on how OP Rayleigh is in the grand scheme of things. It even makes me think of how he is mentioning future sight to Luffy during the time skip, and after the time skip he used Conqueror's Haki coding when facing Blackbeard. Even the Odin flashback in the anime highlighted Rayleigh's Haki by having him punk Marco with one finger. Talk about a GOAT. Even Law and Kid understood how goated meeting the Lord of the Underworld, a legendary man, was. But enough of me hyping up Rayleigh before someone comments that I'm just glazing, because there's actually meaning to why I'm mentioning this. Rayleigh mentioned Hachi saved him over 20 years ago when he was shipwrecked, and this to me is a reference of Rayleigh being in a battle after Roger died with a significant enough of a pirate or marine that had him shipwrecked, of course. And the only two individuals I can think of so far is Sengoku, since Garp did say not to mention Rayleigh's name to him, or Jakyo Mihawk when he was climbing up the ranks to be the world's greatest swordsman. And this probably motivated Shanks to have battles with Mihawk because he knows how strong Rayleigh is, and obviously them being on the same crew, because after Roger died, the two strongest swordsmen to me were Kozuki Odin and Silver's Rayleigh, and Mihawk couldn't randomly got the title of world's strongest swordsman just from hunting marines, and it would make Zoro and Mihawk's rivalry that much better knowing that he got the title from the former Roger vice captain and lost to Luffy's vice captain. How epic and poetic would that be? Now, Roger's last words to Rayleigh was, I'm not gonna die, partner. This is an obvious reference to the Will D and Joy Boy's tale of laughs. But then I remember Rayleigh was crying when Roger gave his last words in Odin's flashback. So could this be some sort of code meaning that actually is more sad than joyful? No pun intended. All in all, Rayleigh didn't go to Roger's execution. So is Roger not officially dead? Who knows? But something I thought was eerily was Odin laughing and then crying at Roger's death, and then of course calling him a wonderful man. So expect Roger's last words to be connected to Joy Boys for sure, as Rayleigh confirmed he never laughed more than when Roger was executed. Execution happened. So why are these former Roger pirates laughing so much at Roger dying? Is there some deeper meaning that we just don't see yet? Even when Rayleigh met Shanks without a straw hat and arm, said he can't run his mouth on things that Shanks and Luffy haven't spoke about. which makes me think Shanks told Rayleigh something that like about Luffy eating the Nika fruit, and with Rayleigh knowing Joy Boy's full story, he understands that Luffy inherited the most ridiculous power in the world, making him train Luffy all the more interesting. And when they do meet again, I wonder how Rayleigh will react to seeing Nika alive and not hearing stories from the Void Sentry, but actually seeing it from his own eyes. Now, of course, Rayleigh blocked the Kizaru laser kick. This isn't just impressive because of his Haki, but also because Rayleigh's speed at his old age, and the fact that he used his legs like Sanji rather than his sword, showing he's more than one-dimensional. Like the time he used his finger versus Marco in the anime, Rayleigh seems to know how to fight with both hand-to-hand combat and with his sword. And I wonder how much of his fighting style Oda will highlight other than his swordsmanship during the final war. Also, it's Kizaru letting Rayleigh know that he would need preparation for him to actually capture Rayleigh, one of the biggest compliments I've seen when it comes to fighting skill. And Kizaru highlights how Rayleigh is just not a regular pirate, he's a Roger pirate, making him extra notorious for the sins they committed from the world government's point of view. And I feel like a certain other marine would not let Rayleigh go, but actually take the time to take him down if given the chance. And that's like kind of the fleet admiral, and let me touch upon that a little bit later. Oda showcased Rayleigh killing a sea king in the calm belt and how his ship wrecked from outside the calm belt, meaning he swam a great distance all the way just to see Luffy, showing how dedicated he is to helping Luffy do what both his captain Roger and the legend of Joy Boy couldn't do, and that's win versus the world government as a pirate. We even saw Kuma having words with Rayleigh that were never shown, and Kuma admitted he wanted Luffy to be Nika. He didn't even say this about his leader, Monkey D. Dragon, so expect Kuma and Rayleigh, who knows Joy Boy is Nika, to trade some historic words pertaining to Luffy doing the unthinkable. Obviously, an incident occurred post Marineford that had the Gorosei Mars confused of Rayleigh coming out in the open after all this time. Even as readers, we did not really notice this at the time, but Rayleigh is moving out of character all for Luffy. And Rayleigh is a man who knows everything, being that, of course, he's been to Lafta. And we even had Rayleigh explaining Haki to Luffy. And while he's explaining Haki, we see panels of him kicking Kizaru, or Luffy realizing he can fight Aokiji and Smoker. But if you look above those panels, we can see Rayleigh explaining Haki and nullifying Loki's powers, and it's that kind of being highlighted. I think this is foreshadowing to the final war, specifically a battle between Rayleigh and Akainu. After Luffy gives thanks to Rayleigh for training him for 2 years, he tells him he's gonna do it. He's gonna become the king of the pirates, as tears come down Rayleigh's eyes, not only because of his captain Roger doing it, but also because of Joy Boy's tale. And they learn how Roger and Rayleigh been waiting for Luffy to arrive and take the mantle of not only a pirate king but Joy Boy and change the world, as we see Rayleigh remembering Roger asking him to turn the world upside down, wearing the iconic straw hat. And Rayleigh starts to cry again and says there's no such thing as coincidence, and Luffy has taken a one step closer of being worthy of the hat he wears, and that boy makes me feel like living a little bit longer. These are great words from Rayleigh about Luffy, and I don't think he's talking about just Roger and the hat connection there, because he would have mentioned the same about Shanks. I think he's talking about, of course, Joy Boy and inheriting the mantle that he left behind, and pretty much confirms Rayleigh was ready to die, but Luffy made him want to live. Robin voice. So expect, of course, our ankles to be broken if we see Rayleigh die during the final war, and it's gonna be one of these craziest shocking plot twists in the story. I remember during, of course, the time skip, they show that Rayleigh told Luffy to think of something other than Gear 4th. Too much, because it's too much strain on his body. Now, in hindsight, is he just waiting for Luffy to truly awaken his Delph ability and become Nika like Joy Boy? And ironic how Rayleigh explains stronger foes and stronger Haki becomes with extreme battle, and Luffy's most extreme battle with the strongest creature alive caused him to not only advance his armor in Haki and conquers Haki, but also his Delph ability into Nika, like how Rayleigh initially wanted. I found it extra funny seeing Rayleigh's reaction to Luffy saying a person's personality comes into play during battle. It was an utter confusion. This to me screamed, of course, this is similar to Joy Boy trait, and that even Rayleigh, knowing Joy Boy's story, couldn't understand. That's why you saw the confusion when, of course, Roger and Rayleigh and all the Roger pirates were laughing. So I think there's definitely connections to Luffy and Joy Boy, even more so than Luffy and Roger. We even see during Dressrosa, Don Chinja was shocked to hear Silvers Rayleigh was still alive after Luffy tells him that Rayleigh was his trainer. And of course, on the cover story, Oda shows us Rayleigh's reaction to Luffy defeating Doflamingo as he stopped his gambling. But I noticed that it's kind of like Oda is hiding Rayleigh's reaction to Luffy becoming the 5th Yonko after Whole Cake Island. an official Yonko after defeating Kaido, because I think Oda wants Rayleigh to make an official reaction during the final war. Now, of course, just recently we saw a moment of post-Wano of Rayleigh coming to Amazon Lily because, of course, Marines were going after it since Boa lost her warlord title, and how he lets Blackbeard know he does not fuck with him. As, of course, this is also him leaking Conqueror's Haki coding from his blade. It's almost as if Oda is teasing us with Rayleigh fighting, and the fact that Rayleigh is saying they got lucky and he wouldn't win a head-to-head fight with Blackbeard these days says a lot of him being a Haki master. And what did he sense from Haki, from Teach with his own Haki? A man who's been on God Valley and Laughter and see so many legendary fights. This all showed to me one important thing. Yes, that's right. Expect to see Rayleigh in the final war with, of course, maybe Boa Hancock, who's a super Team Luffy fangirl. And then, of course, we can also see Rayleigh, who's Team Luffy as well. And then Glorissa and Shaki, who are former Rocks gang, former Rocks pirates. So a lot of past and present lore accumulating to Rayleigh saving his pupil like Garp did. But a little different because Luffy will not need the saving, but it will help. And Akainu trying to stop Luffy from attaining the One Piece, this could lead to Rayleigh getting packed out, alongside even Sabo losing too. But I think it'll be different because I think Rayleigh could die from Akainu's fight, causing Luffy to crash out and of course defeat Akainu. Now, this is Kizaru from Egghead Island. Ask Whitebeard half his face, or Blackbeard who ran pre-time skip, or even Aoki's leg during the time skip. Akainu is a big problem, and I think ever since Oda said he could, of course, get the One Piece in a year, Oda was planning for him to have some future Final War Savage moments, of course, especially with him not doing anything yet. But don't be surprised if Rayleigh gets some clean hits on him, like Whitebeard versus Akainu or Garp versus Aokichi. But I do think Rayleigh's life might end here. But if you want to see more on Blackbeard and how he could be a very monumental final villain with the ancient weapons, click on that video.